What's up, guys? Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I promise you won't regret it. We're putting out as much content as we possibly can and as much information as we possibly can about bass fishing, crappie fishing, what little bit I know about it, but bass fishing primarily. So we want to share as much of our knowledge as we can. I'm not the most knowledgeable person in the world, but I've been doing it for a good long while, and I like to make you or help you be a better fisherman as much as I possibly can. So what I want to talk about right now is a bait that I've had next to no confidence in until this year. It does come into play in the wintertime, especially when we have a warming trend for 3, 4, 5 days, where you start to see that water temperature trying to climb up. This little booger will come into play, and that is a wake bait. Now in the fall, this is a bad little dude. And I didn't know how bad it was because I've thrown it a whole lot with no success, not understanding exactly how to fish a wake bait. So what I have learned about a wake bait is it doesn't always necessarily have to create a wake. It does, for the most part, if you fish it relatively slow. This is a Strike King wake bait. And if you fish it pretty slow, it's going to have that slow side-to-side, snake-like action. And it's going to create a good wake. But you can burn this, and it'll stay just below the surface, and it still creates a little bit of a wake. But that is when it can be really, really phenomenal. Now, we'll talk more about it in the terms of how we would use it in the wintertime. So if we have a spike in the weather or spike in the temperatures and the weather's trending upward and a lot of sunny days and you start to see that water temperature climb, that's where you can go to a wake bait and you can absolutely crush them, because those fish are feeding up. They are feeding up because they're moving up in the water. Now in the wintertime, what a lot of people don't necessarily understand about the winter is as the water gets colder, the fish occupy less of the water column. Now, until you understand it, you can't take advantage of it. So what that means is in the summertime and in the spring and in the fall, the fish are throughout the system. But in the wintertime, they only occupy about 10% of the overall water column. So let's say you're like 60 foot deep. Those fish will typically only occupy a 10% of that water column. Does that mean that there's not fish up shallow? Absolutely there is. Does that mean there's not fish deeper? Absolutely there is. But the general population of fish will be in that 10%. And your job as the angler is to figure out, where is that 10%? Is it 5 foot? Is it 10 foot? Where is it? So what I like to do is, if I find some fish on a jerkbait at a certain depth, when it's cold and nasty out, and if I can go back a couple times, I can continually kind of catch a few fish in that area. When we have that warming trend and those fish are coming up, and those big females will come up a lot of times in the early spring to sun themselves, and just all fish in general, really. But they'll come up to sun themselves and they'll get up, to warm up a little bit. They feel that water temperature rising, they're going to gravitate towards it. And they are opportunistic feeders. And when this dude comes by their face in that cold water, don't think for a minute that they're not going to absolutely choke it. So I will focus on the areas that I found them on an A-rig or a jerkbait or a jig, but I will fish it shallower. I will come up on the bank, make a long cast parallel on the bank with this bait. And I like to throw it on a really light action rod, much like you would a crankbait or a shallow diving crankbait. I want a rod tip that's got a lot of flex to it. It doesn't take a lot to get these hooks to penetrate those fish, but I will throw it on fluorocarbon. And I don't necessarily want this bait to dive. So here's another little trick. I will throw this on fluorocarbon if I do want it to go just a hair deeper. So let's say I want it to go 6 inches or 8 inches or a foot. And it won't quite go a foot most of the time. Especially in the winter as the water's colder, it's more dense and the baits typically don't run as deep as they will at other times of year. But if I want this bait to stay on top, I'm going to go with a heavy monofilament, especially if we have some stain in the water. I'm talking, 18 to 20 pounds, 17 to 20 pound monofilament, maybe even 25. Something that's got, some density to it and keep this bait high. And that's going to keep that bait up on top of the water. Now, I want to show you a little trick. This is like the coolest little trick that you can do. And I love to fish grass. And this is a really, really cool thing, a way to fish the wake bait in the summertime that gives you a very unique look. And you can fish it in the spring too, I'm sure. And it may even work in the wintertime. I've never tried it. But it is really, really cool if you're going to be fishing around grass or grass edges or a lot of wood and just really gnarly stuff. Take yourself a hitchhiker, a little screw here, a little screw lock, just like that. Go to the back eye on your wake bait. And it doesn't have to be a Strike King wake bait. Go to the back eye. Take that hitchhiker, pop it through the eye just like so. You're going to crimp that with pliers. Right now I'm just going to bend it with my fingers to show you. So now this is back behind the hook. Here's where it gets real cool. Take a finesse worm. What to do is just go about right there. If you can see where that bulkier part of the bait is in the middle there, I will go there, bite this bait down, take that screw lock, take the tail end of this bait, take that screw lock and thread it right up on that dude. And this is so cool, guys. I love the way this looks in the water. And it's something that, especially like around spotted bass that are fairly aggressive, or in a fishery that gets a lot of pressure and fish just haven't seen this look, man, it could be really, really good. So now what I have done is I've taken this wake bait and I have turned it into a rat, a topwater rat. So when this bait goes through the water, walking side to side, this tail is going to whip back and forth. And that is one of the coolest looking baits in the water. It's something that this summer I've just learned about this recently. It's something this summer I'm going to have to try, especially if I'm fishing around vegetation or real heavy cover. I think this could be really, really effective in just giving the bait a different look, especially on those days like a wake bait. You think of it in the fall, obviously, but a wake bait could be really effective when you just can't get those fish to commit to coming up on top. So guys, give it a try. The little screw lock, the little trick worm, give that a try, guys. And don't be scared to pick these up, even in the wintertime. I know people think, oh my gosh, throwing a topwater bait in cold water. Look, guys catch them on a buzz bait in 40-degree water. Now, I don't, because I ain't brave enough to do it all day, because where we live at, we're fishing for a couple bites a day. And I don't want to burn past a good crankbait bite trying to catch one on a buzz bait. But if I lived in the South where the fishing was a little better, you better believe I would throw it. So guys, don't be scared to pick it up when the time is right. Don't be scared to pick it up when the conditions will allow this bait to work. And that is on a warming trend in the wintertime. Give it a try, guys. Thanks again for watching. We appreciate it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. As always, share it with your friends. Y'all have a good day, and we will see you next time.